Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Anti-News Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Grosso, and thank you for tuning in. Today's date is August 23rd, and as always, I've got 5 happy stories for you. First up, sensation comes to prosthetics. Thailand protects coral reefs by banning sunscreen, and a medical superglue inspired by Barnacles. After the music break, a lost dog makes her way home, and Nintendo partners with a non-profit to bring joy to children in hospitals. Phantom pain is when someone who's lost a limb still feels sensation where the limb was. It was once believed that this was purely psychological, but it's now known that these sensations come from the brain and spinal cord. Aside from this, however, people who have had amputations and wear prosthetics experience no sensation in that limb. It can be dehumanizing in a way, and can possibly put the person in danger because the limb can't feel things like heat or pain. Replicating the sensation of human touch has been one of the major challenges for roboticists trying to create robotic limbs, but that problem might soon be solved thanks to a new technology. Researchers at Beihang University in Beijing, China, have developed a new sensing technique that involves soft material-based robotic fingers. The technique is centered around something called proprioception. Proprioception is how mammals, which include humans, can do things like walk upstairs or grab an object without having to look at what we're doing. One of the researchers, Chang Chen, explains, "The idea behind our recent paper is based on the proprioception framework found in humans, which is what determines our body position and load on our tendon/joints. Chang, along with his co-workers, have developed a prototype system that works by collecting data from a sensor and then using machine learning to determine the rigidity and texture of what the robotic finger is touching. Tests have shown extremely promising, with stiffness accuracy at 99.7% and texture accuracy at an even more amazing 100%. This is stuff right out of a science fiction novel, and yet here it is, for everyone to see. To borrow an old line, the future is now, and it'll help us a lot. Things that were once believed to simply be a fact of life, such as not being able to feel if you lost a limb, are no longer such as we make more and more advancements. In that vein, never give up on what you want to do, because sometimes facts can become fiction, and fiction can become fact. Coral is incredibly beautiful, but also incredibly fragile. They are important to their ecosystems, but a lot of things can damage them. From pollution, dredging, anchors, or even just touching them. Another thing that can damage coral reefs is sunscreen. Specifically, 4 ingredients in sunscreen that I can't pronounce. To help protect them, Thailand has banned the use of sunscreen containing those ingredients in their marine national parks. The reason that sunscreens with these ingredients are being banned is because they bleach reef systems and stop coral from reproducing. Coral bleaching happens when algae, which makes up almost all of the coral's energy source, gets expelled from the reef, which is understandably bad. Water pollution, overfishing, and coastal development are the top 3 offenders for causing this bleaching to happen, but of course there are plenty of other causes as well. Thailand isn't the first country to ban these 4 coral horsemen either. Hawaii and the Pacific islands of Palua, Bonaire, and Aruba have also made similar bans in order to protect their fragile reef systems. Fortunately, not all sunscreens are bad for reefs. Sunscreens that have mineral instead of chemical blockers are typically better, though always be sure to check the ingredients on the bottle and do your own research. While there isn't much to this story, sometimes you just have to celebrate the small victories when the big ones feel few and far between. A common complication during surgery is excessive bleeding. Normally, to stop this, doctors use medication that causes the blood to clot, referred to as hemostatic agents, but those still take time to work. What's more, if they don't work properly, or there's too much blood, then adhesives have a hard time sticking to an injury, which means it's harder to bandage up wounds. What's needed is an even stickier alternative to medical tape, and researchers have found just the thing in an unusual place, or rather, from an unusual creature. Researchers at MIT have developed a super strong surgical glue that can stop bleeding within 30 seconds. The inspiration for this was taken from barnacles, after researchers noticed how they were able to stick to anything, regardless of how wet or dirty it is. Barnacles are able to do this by secreting two different liquids, one of which is an oil that repels and displaces water, and the other is a protein-based adhesive. The oil lets the adhesive stick to a cleaner surface, making it easier. Hyun-Woo Yuk, the lead author of the study, said, "It's very interesting because to seal bleeding tissues, you have to fight with not only wetness, but also the contamination from this outcoming blood. We found that this creature, living in a marine environment, is doing the exact same thing that we have to do to deal with complicated bleeding issues." The team discovered that the glue they've developed already works better than existing hemostatic agents. The researchers are working on improving the material and claim that it could one day be used by first responders to stop bleeding as soon as they reach the patient. Along with that, it could let surgeons control bleeding more easily during operations. Inspiration can come from anywhere, and the number of ideas it can create are endless. This is just one example of that, where inspiration came from something completely unexpected. Sometimes that's the best place to get inspiration from, the unexpected. The downside is that you can't control that, but accepting that things are out of our control is just another place inspiration can come from. One example of a place inspiration came from is real life, as is the case with today's music break. Today is my parents' wedding anniversary, so I've decided that something a little more romantic is in order. Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad. I hope you, and everyone else listening, enjoy this tune. With that said, let's go to the music break. That was Eternal Love by Twisterium. Now on to the last two stories. When a pet goes missing, it's heartbreaking and nerve-wracking. In the United States alone, approximately 10 million pets go missing each year, and tragically, many of them never return. In Alabama, June Roundtree's 4-year-old Abby, a black and white dog, disappeared without a trace. June and her husband spent weeks looking for Abby, but with no luck. However, it turned out that Abby was looking for them as well, and eventually found her way home. Abby disappeared for 3 weeks, leaving behind her collar and an empty tie-out line. June and her husband went door to door, scouring the neighborhood to find their missing dog, but no one had seen her. Although worried about her pet, June still had to go to work, specifically as a cashier at Walmart. While working, a dog somehow got loose in the store, dodging everyone that was trying to catch it while running through all the aisles. The dog made its way to June's register, where it turned out that wasn't just any old dog. To June's surprise, it was Abby, who had found her way there, got inside, and reunited with her owner. "I called her name and she came to me," June told WAPO. "I bent over and hugged her. I completely lost it then. I couldn't speak. I was in complete shock and just couldn't believe it." No one knows where Abby was during her 3 weeks away from home, but June believes that someone was feeding her as the dog was in great shape. Abby had been in that Walmart's parking lot with June a few times, but never inside. No one's sure what drove Abby to go inside the Walmart, but it's possible that Abby might have caught June's scent and followed it inside. Coincidence does not mean correlation, but sometimes you can't help but wonder when something like this happens. Call it coincidence, call it fate, but whatever it is, it's something that we've all experienced, for better or worse. What we make of what we're given is up to us, and the best we can do is to make the most of it. Nobody likes having to stay in the hospital, but it can be especially hard on children. Being in the hospital means that they can't be with their friends, play with their own toys, or spend time with their pets. It's been proven that a bad mental or emotional state can make recovery harder, which can prolong a hospital stay even more so. Medical bills can be expensive, but what isn't is bringing a smile to a kid's face and making whatever they're dealing with easier. That's why Nintendo has partnered with the non-profit Starlight Children's Foundation to bring specially made video game stations to hospitals. Starlight Nintendo Switch gaming stations have been placed in several hospitals in the United States and come with over 25 different games in them. The gaming station was designed specifically for hospitals and can be cleaned to hospital standards. The system includes a mounted playback monitor that can be rolled around, so any child can enjoy it whether they're stuck in bed, waiting on a relative in surgery, or going through treatment themselves. Over the course of 28 years, Starlight with Nintendo of America have supplied over 800 hospitals and healthcare facilities with consoles, bringing entertainment to over 11 million sick kids. Adam Garone, the CEO of Starlight, stated, "Over the years, Starlight gaming stations have provided millions of seriously ill children with the healing power of play, entertainment, socialization, and emotional support, and have helped to normalize an otherwise scary situation or setting for families. We're so grateful to Nintendo and their employees for such a long and continuing partnership fueled by innovation, impact, and generous support." Don James, Nintendo of America's Executive Vice President of Operations, added, "It's been our pleasure to work with Starlight and observe them bringing happiness to kids when they need it the most. As with everything we do, we hope the new Starlight Nintendo Switch gaming stations will put smiles on the faces of children and their families." Every little action could mean the world to someone else, especially when in a situation that's so different from what's normal for them. For a child, being stuck in the hospital can be scary, but the Starlight Gaming system lets them forget about it for a while. You might not be part of a big company or a charity, but you still can and should help others when you can. You never know what little act might brighten up someone's day, even if it's just your own. Here's today's advice. Enjoy avocados, but hate waiting for them to ripen? You can speed up the process by putting an avocado in a paper bag with a banana for 2 or 3 days. Bananas release a lot of ethylene in their ripening process, which helps ripen other fruits as well, but bananas don't know when to stop ripening, hence why they go bad so fast. It's simply bananas, but the fruit is still appealing to many. That's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to support this podcast, you can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Google and Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. Links can be found in the description, and until next time, remember that there is still some good in the world, you just gotta look for it. Take care out there, everyone.